advisor to industry, government and regulators on fintech, open banking, open finance and smart data. She focuses on creating products and services consumers get genuine value from and love using. She has a wide range of interests in financial services, having worked in the past on a diversity of issues ranging from enforcement and redress through to accessibility and vulnerability. At the moment, she is particularly interested in the potential of technology to improve financial services for consumers and to make regulation more effective. Finally, and I'd like to mention it here, she has recently authored the independent reports Consumer Priorities for Open Banking and Open Banking, a Consumer Perspective. Faith, I'd really like to welcome you and we'd really like to thank you for taking your time to support this Emerging Payments Association initiative, where we will be specifically talking to you about affordable credit. I'm going to open with a couple of questions. As I mentioned earlier, you're a strategic advisor to government regulators and fintechs, but you're also a non-executive for Fair for All Finance. So speaking to you with that hat on at this stage, can you just tell us a little bit about the aims and projects that Fair for All Finance are working on?
Sure. So, Fair for All Finance was set up in 2019 with funding from dormant assets to improve the financial well-being and resilience of people in vulnerable circumstances by increasing their access to fair and affordable financial products and services. And this last year and the impact of COVID has really demonstrated that all of us can be subject to vulnerable circumstances and life is not certain or predictable. Today, our work has focused on expanding the provision of affordable credit through a scaled community finance sector. Last August, we launched a pilot scale-up programme which worked with 5 affordable credit providers, and we'd have focus on enabling alternative lenders to scale to prove sustainable models for serving people in vulnerable circumstances. And we then developed that into a second programme, which is providing a package of tailored support for organisations. And this year, the team also worked really hard to deliver 5 million in grant funding to support the sector emerge from COVID in a resilient state. Going forward, Fair for All Finance will continue to expand the provision of affordable credit as one of our key pillars of activity. We've just launched our strategy and you can find that online. Another pillar is our partnering with banks and other financial services providers to see how they can support our aims. We want to take the best of what mainstream services have already done to help in this crisis and consider what can be maintained and scaled. One key goal for us this year is to work with banks to establish a debt fund of 40 million. And our third pillar is looking at how we can understand the gaps in the market and act as a catalyst to fill those. And there are growing gaps in the market as high-cost lenders and rent-to-own providers exit. So we'll aim to use our market transformation fund to help plug those gaps. One area close to our heart is the delivery of a no-interest loan scheme, which we're working with other partners in the not-for-profit sector to deliver. And I guess that's one of the key takeaways for me in terms of thinking about working and having the privilege of working alongside Fair for All is just how important collaboration is in seeking to deliver transformational change at a systemic level.
I think that was when you were talking, that was one of the things that's very coming out strongly was it is about collaboration and the market needs to work together to make change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the real kind of challenge. We have some real kind of societal issues and helping people access affordable financial services is one of them, but we also have some pressing issues around climate change, for instance, and we need to start thinking differently and more innovatively about how we collaborate and partner together to solve these big society issues in a sustainable way.
Moving on from that and putting your other hat on, so moving away from the Fair for All debate, but just as yourself, how do we ensure that the products that are being delivered are affordable and accessible?
So I think traditional financial services are tended to focus on people with predictable lives and predictable incomes. But the gig economy, I think, has more than doubled in the last 3 years and now accounts for 4.7 million workers, and that's massive. And alongside, obviously, changing lives and changing work patterns, COVID has had a big impact and shown us just how unpredictable and uncertain life can be, especially for people who are moving in and out of those sectors that get locked down, especially in hospitality and service sectors. So I guess I think one of the key areas in terms of how we make products accessible and affordable is is designing them to be much more responsive to real people's needs. Too often we're focused on delivering for an average consumer. We need to perhaps move on from that and think much more about consumers and segments, understanding their needs and designing products to meet those needs, and be a bit more innovative and creative in our thinking. And I guess in terms of what do I mean by responsive, we could think about taking into account things like accessibility, bridging the digital divide, understanding how unstable incomes fluctuate or the kind of key pain points during the year, breaking down the barriers that get in the way of people taking those positive actions like saving that they want to do. So many people want to save, but there are these hurdles in the way that stop us from doing that. So understanding what are those hurdles and how do we work with the grain of consumer behaviour to help people do the things they want to and to live sort of healthy, financially healthy lives. And I guess that's in terms of thinking about innovation. It's where I think organisations like Fair for All are really important in challenging the status quo, working with the not-for-profit sector as well as the for-profit sector to drive that transformational change, that need to have different parts of society coming together to create real change in society that we need to drive out financial well-being for all of us and not just the savvy or the people who have got stable incomes.
Very good point. I'd just like one final question, is that you have been instrumental with the open banking implementation entity to ensure that products are available to all. In your view, what should the government and fintechs be actually doing to support this?
So data is power. And it can be used for good and bad. And I think affordable credit and credit are particularly interesting areas where open banking has really come to the fore, that having access to people's transaction data can really open up credit for people who perhaps have been blocked from accessing it before because they have thin credit files. It enables firms to look at their data and see how they can be much more accurate in affordability checking processes. And also thinking about how they can deliver products in a more responsible and flexible way. So thinking about payment holidays or flexing repayment schedules, etc. But it can be used in negative ways as well, which could see exploitation of consumers or cherry picking and more financial exclusion. So I think as a consumer and as a consumer representative for open banking, I really want to see open banking used as a force for good to increase financial inclusion and widen access to financial products and services for everyone. And for government, I think it's really important that they play a role in ensuring that data delivers for people, for citizens, consumers, and also that their representatives are engaged in dialogue and are able to inform and influence organisations like open banking. And that really does require some thought and creativity and innovation. It's kind of challenging as we think, well, how do we get consumer voices right into the middle of those quite commercial conversations where there are lots of different competing forces? And I guess it begins to make me think that we need a different way of thinking about organisations and understanding infrastructure and the role it plays in the whole life cycle, and perhaps incorporating new practices, for instance, like inclusive design, engaging real citizens in thinking about what products and services they want and designing in a collaborative and co-creative way. And then thinking about not just creating nice products with nice design, but also saying, oh, how is this playing out in practice? What products are we seeing coming to the market? Are those the products we envisaged? Are those being delivered in a way that is creating good outcomes for consumers downstream? So not just that people have a good experience in the moment, but having used that product and service, they have a good outcome as well, and that they are financially better off, they have better well-being, and also kind of are wealthier as a result. So I think the other aspects of government engagement, I think, would be really helpful to think about sustained incubation and acceleration to stimulate the market to deliver those kinds of accessible, affordable and fair products. They don't naturally come to the market through competition. They need a little bit of encouragement, and that's, I think, something that government can do in terms of really encouraging the market. The other thing is that I'm really struck by how much power there is in open banking and what great services it can deliver, but just how unaware people are of the fact that they create data, that they can control their data, that they can use it safely and securely to get better services. So I'm very keen on seeing organisations like open banking and government and the ICO and fintechs and industry all coming together to say, how do we communicate the benefits of data? How do we make sure people know they can use it and get value from their own data? So that's another area I think government and industry and regulators can come together and convene on. And for fintechs, thinking about actually their role in the delivery of products, it's really important to understand what your purpose is and what you're trying to achieve and and how that relates to society around us. What's your kind of bottom line in terms of profit and people and planet? So I'm kind of keen to encourage firms, it's got some great regulation policy out there now, and that there's a real sense of wanting to create an innovative environment in the UK, looking at a national data strategy that's leading a data-driven economy. I think now's the time for fintechs to lean in and respond to that wholeheartedly, and to respond to the challenge of looking to improve society, looking to improve people's lives and bring about services that are just and ethical and democratic. And that means not just innovation in terms of technology, but innovation in culture as well. And so that's where I'd really like to see fintechs pushing forward and pioneering innovative culture, not just technology.
Well, Faith, I'd like to say thank you for once again having a very enlightening but also interesting debate. I've taken away from this, it's all about collaboration, accessibility, and around data, but ensuring that data is used in a positive way for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.